الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose knowledge encompasses all things, and He is witness over all things. His knowledge reaches what is disclosed and what is hidden, what is near and what is far. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, with whom there is no associate. To Him belongs the kingdom, and to Him all praise is due. He is the best protector and the one worthy of all praise. My dear brothers and sisters, it was reported on the authority of Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, I asked the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tell me of something which should cause me to be admitted into paradise, and it will keep me away from the fire. He sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam answered, you have asked about a matter of great importance. Very important thing you have asked about. But it is easy for one for whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy. And Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam gave him this advice. He said, worship Allah and associate nothing with Him. Observe the prayer, pay the zakah, observe the fast of Ramadan, and perform the pilgrimage if you can afford the journey. Then he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam took hold of his tongue, and he said, keep this in control, holding his tongue. He said, keep this in control. And Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, shall we be called to account? Will we really be asked in respect of that which we used to say? Is that something that will be accounted for, Ya Rasulullah? And he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam answered, may your mother lose you. Will people not be thrown face down into hell only on account of the hardness of their tongue? That only for this reason, for what they use their tongues to do, the bad things that they engaged in, the words that they use, that will lead them to the hellfire, Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam said. And so we arrive at the surah, the ayah of which I just mentioned before, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surah Humazah, woe to every backbiter, derider. And now Humazah and Lumazah have many meanings. We will share with that. I will share that with you inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَهُ, who accumulates wealth and constantly counts it. يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَهُ. He thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. كَلَّا لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمِ. No, he will certainly be thrown into the crusher. وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَ. And what may let you know what the crusher is? نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is the fire of Allah. نَارُ اللَّهِ. It is the fire of Allah, eternally fueled. الَّذِي تَطَّلِعُ عَلَى الْأَفْئِدَةِ. That will creep into the hearts. إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةً. Indeed, hellfire will be closed down upon them. فِي عَمَدٍ مُمَدَّدَةٍ. In extended columns. My dear brothers and sisters, this surah warns of the severe punishment of 3 grave sins. But we will only talk about 2 of them right now. One of them is the hoarding of money, which we will leave. But the first 2 sins that the surah talks about is first of backbiting and of mocking of others, making fun of others, making a joke of others. And most mufassirin agree. We will talk about this in detail, but most mufassirin agree that these words, what do they mean? Humazah they agree it means to backbite, to talk about someone in his or her absence. And the word Humaza comes from lams, and it means to slander, or to make fun, or to ridicule, to mock someone. This is what the Mufassirin say about these two words. We know that the Surah Humazah, it comes after, for those who have read this chapter, and many of us have, and those who have memorized, many of us have as well. These surahs, before it comes to surahs, Surah Al-Kahf and Surah Al-Asr. And both of these surahs that come before it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about how mankind is in perpetual loss. How when we should be worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have frittered away our time and wasted our time doing things we should not be engaged in. And so Surah Al-Kahf highlights this and talks about very generally, Al-Hakum al-Takathur hatta zurtum al-maqabir, that the people are constantly distracted by the world until they face death. And then it is too late to go back and repair that damage that they did with the relationship that they did not make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in Surah Al-Asr, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ, that man is in a state of perpetual loss. So these two surahs talk about that man is in loss. What is the consequence of being in loss? That is talked about in Surah Humazah. What will happen to those who have lost? What are they losing? What is their punishment? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in this surah in great detail about the Jahannam. And He says it very explicitly, Narullah. And we will talk about why that is important. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Humazah that we have become lost, that we have gone away from the path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions hellfire in such a way that our scholars say that there is in the entire Quran, there is no other surah that describes hell like this. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Narullah, not Nara Jahannam. He says the fire of Allah, not the fire of hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it clear that this is a fire that He has made Himself. He has prepared this fire for those people who do those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love. And in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about explicitly those who make fun, those who backbite, those who use sarcasm, those who hurt others, those who bully others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says for them, Narullah, Allah has readied the fire for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, my dear brothers and sisters. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the beginning of the surah, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. What does wayl mean? Wayl means destruction. It means destruction. Originally the word was wayl. Destruction, waylaka, destruction for you. That's what they used to say. Waylaka, destruction for you. But it was used so many times that people just began saying way. Just enough is way. So what does this mean? Sometimes if you want an example of this, if you have a child who is disobedient, a parent has a very disobedient child, and he gets very frustrated, the child never listens, he gives him advice, never listens, and he says to his son or his daughter, he says, waylaka amin. Waylaka amin. Destruction to you. You don't listen. You disobey me all the time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these verses is extremely frustrated with these people. Those who act in this way, my dear brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word way. And how many times does He use it? You can actually count it. If you go from Surah Mursalat, which is the last surah in the 29th juz, and you go all the way through the whole Quran, way is mentioned 27 times in the Quran and 10 times in Surah Mursalat. So what is this Humazah, Lumazah, Hutama? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this rhyme, this pattern, this beauty of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts these words in. So I wanted to discuss this. First we talked about that this Humazah is backbiting and Lumazah is slander. But the Mufassirin obviously have different points of view. And according to Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and through Al-Razi, he said, what is Humaz? Humaz is something that is done behind the back. Something that is done behind the back. And lumaz is done in front of the face. So humaza is insulting someone behind their back, and lumaza is insulting someone in front of their face as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing both these types of people. Those who make fun in front of the faces, and those who talk behind the backs of others. And when does this occur? Does this really occur? It happens all the time in our daily lives. Whenever people get together, they start gossiping. A lot of times. And we talk about other people. And we feel as though we are better, others are inferior. And we begin talking badly about that. And we think that this is okay. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear that this is not something that is okay. And another mufassirin also teaches us that lumaz is sarcasm. Having sarcasm. When you're talking to your brother and, he makes a mistake, and I do this sometimes too. He makes a mistake, he does something that he isn't supposed to do. You use sarcasm. You're a genius. You're so smart. And this is not really, you're not really complimenting this person. You're making fun. You're using sarcasm to make this person feel in a way that he should not. Hurt him. You're a genius. You're so smart. And really, we are abusing this person. And again, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns. Or again, someone cursing another person, using foul language, and laughing at others. All these categories fall into lumaz, making fun, laughing at others. And Ruh al-Ma'ani, Allama Alusi says, that way is used as an emotion. That when someone is insulted behind their back and they are cursed by someone in their face, either way, whether it is behind their back or it is to their face, when they find out, they're not going to feel good about it. Who feels good when you make fun of them? They will be saddened by this. And so they are experiencing a form of self-destruction. You are destroying their self-esteem. You're hurting them and destroying their being. And so this is a type of bullying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, does not allow. And not only that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defends these type of people. That those who are made fun of constantly by others, made to think that they are lower than others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually with those people. And He defends the honor of those people. And Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam said, وَاتَّقِ دَعُوتَ الْمَظْلُومِ فَإِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. That be afraid of the curse of the oppressed person. The one who is oppressed, be afraid of his curse. Why is that, Ya Rasulullah? Because there is no screen between his invocation, his dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when that oppressed person makes dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will listen to that dua. So we have to be very, very careful, my dear brothers and sisters. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the surah, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ, that weighing destruction is upon those. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing those people. It is a promise of destruction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes you, He wants you to know that if you engage these things, that you should be afraid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a punishment in the end for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. My dear brothers and sisters, Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala, again, he has said that humaza is again ghiba. It is backbiting. And lumaza is pointing out the flaws in people over and over and over and over and over again. Why do you do this all the time? You do this all the time. What's wrong with you? Why do you do this again and again and again? Making this a habit and talking about something, about someone, and bringing it up over and over and over again. This is something that Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala said, that this is lumaz. And again, some more mufassirin give us more examples. Abu Zayd has said that humaza means harming with the hands. Harming with the hands. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. That humaza is harming with the hands, and lumaza is harming with the tongue. And Abu Aliya has said that humaza is to insult openly, to say it to someone's face, and lumaza is to say it behind their back. Now, I'm giving you all these different meanings of humaza and lumaza. And again, it is said that humaza is also to call people by names that they do not like. If you have some, people have really bad nicknames that they make for people. If you make these nicknames and call them things that they do not like, Mufassirin say that this is a type of humaza. And Humazah is to make fun also of someone you sit next to. You know, sometimes you sit next to people, or someone is sitting next to someone. They see a lot of people culturally today, nowadays, what they do is they roll their eyes. They roll their eyes behind the back of their head, or roll them over. You know, like, this person, I don't like this person. This is another way of doing Humazah. So Ibn Jawza had asked Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who are these people who are cursed? Who are the way? And Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, it's very simple. Let me give you this explanation. That it is simple. There's people that just look at others and say, look at him. He's so short. Look at his ears. They're so big. Look at that ugly man. His face, it doesn't even look nice. This is the type of actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. This is not something that is joking. This is something that is serious. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes very, very seriously. And He promises destruction for those people, my dear brothers and sisters. May Allah save us from that. My dear brothers and sisters, in the surah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in verse 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the fire of hell will go into the hearts of these people. What does this mean? A lot of times when you see, people are unfortunate. If you happen to fall, if you take something, you take a paper, you throw it in the fire, it will burn that paper entirely. If a person is unfortunately, for example, is in a burning building, and he is going to burn to death, what will happen is, his whole body will burn, his heart will not burn until he is already dead. He will die before his heart has burned, right? He will die before his heart gets to burn. But the fire of hell, Narullah, the fire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that this fire, it will consume his body. It will consume his arms, his legs, his organs, and it will reach his heart, but he will not die. That this person will not die. The Mufassirin say, this is very important for us to realize that this fire will cause pain to his heart, and it will burn his heart in hellfire. That this is the punishment that we have to stay away from. May Allah give us the tawfiq to do so. My dear brothers and sisters, if you recall, the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam warned in the beginning, I talked about, he gave the advice to Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. He said, be careful of your tongue. Hold your tongue, guard your tongue, don't use it for bad things. And what did he mean by that? Talking about lies is one thing that we have to stay away from. Backbiting others, as I said. Tale-bearing. When someone says something bad about another person, taking that information and saying, listen, brother, this man said this about you, he said that about you. You should not like him, you should hate him, you should not talk to him. This is another way of using the tongue for doing bad things. Using bad language, insulting others, cursing, unnecessarily cursing at all is not accepted in the Sharia. May Allah give us the tawfiq to stay away from all these things. My dear brothers and sisters, when we engage all these things, we have to know that there is a punishment, there is a cost for engaging in these things. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm just saying it to his face. At least I'm not doing ghibah. At least I'm not doing ghibah. The comedians, and you watch the comedians and the Bedouins in the olden days, they used to do this all the time, making fun. And they think it's okay. But very clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear to us that this is not okay. And how bad is it, my dear brothers and sisters? It is said that Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam said that a man may say a word. He may utter a word, say something. And he might think that he's not saying anything wrong. There's no fault in what he says. There's nothing wrong with what he said. But just because he said it, that will cause him to fall down into the pit of hell for 70 years. So we have to be very careful, my dear brothers and sisters, and guard our tongues. That whenever we might be thinking that there's a chance that I may be doing something wrong, hold it back. Because the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam was always that either say something good or stay silent. There's nothing for you to say if you have nothing good to say. Just stay silent. My dear brothers and sisters, we have to remember the advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He says in the Quran very beautifully in Surah Qaf, مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that man does not utter a single word except that with him is an observer ready to record. that whenever you're ready to say a single word, there's someone sitting there waiting to write down every single word that you will say. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. O you who believe, fear Allah and always say words of justice, that He may make your conduct whole and sound and forgive you your sins. He that obeys Allah and His Messenger has already attained the highest achievement. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear to us. And this is why I wanted to share this with you. We have a lot of kids here today, mashallah. They're out of school, they have winter break. When I was in school, when I was in high school, all the kids used to get together, and what they used to call it back then was joning. That you get a person, you talk about how he looks, you talk about his hairline, you talk about his clothes, he's got feelers on, he doesn't have the nice Nikes on, he's got the old phone on. This type of bullying, this type of making fun is something that is not allowed in the Sharia of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I wanted to make that clear, that these actions, these jokes, these words, they are harmful to others. And not only are they harmful to them, but in the end you're doing no more harm than to yourself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises, for those who engage in these actions, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for them His fire. Narullahil muqada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a tawfiq to stay away from these bad words and bad thinking and bad actions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enter all of us into Jannatul Firdaus. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه